I'm going to read you a quote that will haunt your nightmares for weeks. Help me. There is someone here, please. I am scared. Those words were typed out by a 23-year-old man named Brandon Swanson on January 14, 2011. He sent the message from his phone to his friend before deleting the app and disappearing without a trace. It's been over a decade, and this case has stumped investigators. And now we're gonna look into it. But I want you to keep an eye out for red flags. I'm gonna tell you every piece of info that's known about this case. But there are some details that don't add up. So let's take a look at the timeline. Brandon Lee Swanson was born in 1987 to parents who had recently moved to Minnesota. His father, Greg, worked in sales and his mother, Jill, was an interior decorator. They divorced when Brandon was just 2 years old, and he went to live with his father. Brandon and his dad lived on a farm, and it seems they had a good relationship. In early 2010, Brandon started dating a woman named Samantha. The couple was deeply in love, and their friends said that Brandon had never been this way about a girl before. He introduced her to his family and told her all about his future plans. He wanted to get married and have kids. In January of 2011, Brandon and Samantha went to a car dealership together and picked out the car they'd buy once Brandon finished college. Throughout Brandon's life, he enjoyed hunting and fishing and would often go out into the woods near his home. On December 27, 2010, he did just that. He got into his truck and headed out to one of his favorite spots. When he didn't return home that night, his father, Greg, called him a few times, but the calls went straight to voicemail. So, he assumed that Brandon spent the night in the cabin on the property. But by the next day, Greg had no choice but to report his son missing because Brandon never came back to the house. A search party was organized, and authorities began investigating. One of Brandon's boots was found in the snow, which suggested that he had been walking in the area. But his jacket, wallet, and cell phone were nowhere to be found. On January 14, 2011, 2 days after he'd gone missing, a hunter in the area spotted Brandon's truck. The discovery gave police hope that Brandon would turn up safe and sound. It seemed unlikely that he would have stayed out in the freezing cold for so long. Yet his truck had blankets in the back, so he likely intended to stay in the woods for a while. Police decided to analyze Brandon's phone records, and it revealed that he'd used his phone to send several text messages to his friend. One of the messages read, "I need some help right away. Someone is here. Please hurry. I am scared." After that, there was a 17-minute gap, and then another message popped up saying, "They left. I'm hiding in the tree stand. Please come." It's unclear whether they refers to one person or multiple people. And neither Brandon nor the cabin where he supposedly stayed had any signs of forced entry. This made police believe that Brandon may have willingly gone into the woods and perhaps even invited whoever was in the truck with him. A massive search effort was undertaken, but it turned up nothing. As time passed, police became increasingly concerned about Brandon's welfare. They believed that he had not run away and that foul play was involved. We know that Brandon was interested in nature and hunting, but what we don't know is whether he ever mentioned any strange encounters while out in the woods. Some sources say that Brandon saw a bear on one of his trips, but there's no evidence to support this. So we can't verify whether the bear story is true. However, this detail is important because a similar case happened in Wisconsin around the same time. In 2011, a man named Jay Sobota disappeared while hunting in the woods. His truck was found parked in a secluded area, but there were no signs of Jay anywhere. Just before he vanished, Jay had reported seeing a large black bear in the area. Authorities believe that the bear had actually been a 7-foot-tall man wearing a bear costume. Isn't that crazy? But what about Brandon? Was the person who abducted him also hiding in plain sight? Police haven't given up on finding Brandon. In the years since he went missing, they've put up billboards along highways offering a $10,000 reward for any information that leads to his whereabouts. But so far, nobody has come forward with any solid leads. If you're watching this video, please take a second to subscribe to our channel. Now, Let's talk about the conspiracy theories surrounding Brandon's disappearance. According to some, the police aren't looking hard enough and are close to giving up on the case. Others believe that Brandon's family isn't doing enough to keep his memory alive. Then there are those who think that Brandon ran away and is living under a false identity somewhere out there. But this theory doesn't really hold water. Brandon left behind his phone and wallet, which isn't like him. And why would he delete the text messages unless he was trying to hide something? What about the bear theory? Is it possible that Brandon stumbled upon a Bigfoot or a man dressed up as a bear? We don't know. But if you ask me, I think this case is much darker than that. What if instead of encountering a bear, Brandon met a human monster? When reading through news articles about this case, many details stood out to me as being weird. First of all, Brandon was a young guy who was loved by many people. It's not like he had enemies or a reason to run away. Also, he wouldn't run away from his own truck. I mean, why would you abandon your vehicle and your belongings and delete your text messages? It doesn't make sense. Unless he was trying to hide evidence of what happened to him, nobody knows where Brandon is or what happened to him. And the case has gone cold. However, I still have a few thoughts on the matter. Let me know if you agree with me in the comments below. This was a bizarre situation. Why was Brandon texting his friend? Who was the mysterious they that showed up in his text messages? And why didn't he have his wallet, money, or cell phone? My guess is that Brandon was kidnapped by a stranger he met in the woods. But why was he texting his friend? Perhaps he was hoping that his friend would see the messages and become suspicious when he didn't show up for work the next day. But why would a kidnapper allow him to send these messages? Maybe the kidnapper is someone that Brandon knew and they allowed him to send the messages to throw off the authorities. Here's what I think happened. Brandon was walking in the woods when he encountered a stranger. The man asked Brandon for directions or help with something and Brandon agreed to assist him. But once Brandon offered to help, the man attacked him, tied him up and shoved him in the back of his truck. The man then drove Brandon to a remote location and buried him in a shallow grave. But this wasn't the end. The man kept Brandon alive for several days by providing him with food and water. He then drove Brandon back to his truck and cut off his head. The man then buried Brandon's body in a shallow grave and covered it with leaves and branches. So what happened to the rest of Brandon's body and why hasn't it been found? Well, the man took Brandon's head with him and either threw it in a lake or a river. To this day, Brandon's head has never been recovered. But why would someone go to all of this trouble? Well, maybe the man was trying to send a message to Brandon's family or he just liked killing people. Here's why I think this. When Brandon's body was found, it had been mutilated. This suggests that his killer wanted to make a statement. But what does it all mean? Why did he specifically cut off Brandon's head? Well, maybe he was sending a message to other hunters in the area. He may have been a serial killer who targeted people who went into the woods alone. Or maybe he just wanted to send a message to Brandon's family, telling them that they'd never find his body. There's one last thing that doesn't make sense about this case. If Brandon was kidnapped and killed, why was his truck left unlocked and his wallet and cell phone left behind? It's as if he voluntarily left them there. But why? Was he trying to lead the authorities in the wrong direction or was he trying to send them a secret message? Maybe you have some insight on what happened to Brandon. If you know anything about this case, please contact the authorities. This poor kid deserves justice and his family deserves answers. Now it's time for me to ask you a question. Do you think that Brandon's killer will ever be caught? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more videos.